Hello, students. After going through some revisions with some of you, I realized that maybe you need a bit of revision about how to interpret the ledger accounts. So I have done up a quick slide. You don't want to watch this video, you can download this set of notes at the bottom here at this email address or this URL. You can go to tinyurl.com/int-ledgers. All right, and you can download this set of notes. Okay, so this very quick video will highlight how to interpret some entries in the ledger accounts. Namely, which account must you be able to interpret? All the different types of accounts listed until here. Now, I have to say that this list is not limited. There are plenty of other accounts which you will need to know how to interpret. But I think the skills is the same. Once you're able to interpret some accounts, you will be able to interpret most of the account. All right. So, what are some of these skills? Now, these are the 5W, one husband, 5 wives and 1 husband, except that it's modified. When you are interpreting the accounts, you must know how to describe when it happened. So provide the date, what happened, describe the transaction, tell me who is involved, name them and shame them. Tell me how much is involved. So tell me what amount it is and how it was paid. Was it paid cash, bank, on credit? All right, so these are the skills that you need to apply to any of the interpret ledgers kind of transaction. Now, I will go through in particular the income, expense, and equity first, followed by the asset and liabilities. Because asset and liabilities, I think you may have a little bit more exposure to them and you might be more familiar with them, but you might maybe need a bit more revision on income, expense, and equity first. All right, so without further ado, I will start out first with rental expense. So your rental expense ledger account might look something like this. All right, and this is assuming a business year end 31st of December. Now, I use rental expense as an example, but mainly it can be any kind of expenses. It could be salaries, it could be interest expense, etc. In any case, in a rental expense, you might see something like this. So on 1st of January, a rent expense payable of $200. Okay. So if you see this, all right, you see this, and the question asks you to describe or interpret the rent expense ledger entry on 1st of January. So how would you do that? Now, in order to do this, you have to remember that if you see a payable on the very first day of a new financial year, actually this entry is a reversal entry. All right, you are actually reversing last year's rent expense payable. So you need to include that in your description. All right, just a quick reminder. So what do we say that we need to include? Date, describe transaction, what happened, who is involved, if you can, name them and shame them, how much and how was it paid. So for rental expense, rental expense payable, this is what will happen. You will say that on 31st of December 2019, so this would be the date, right? It will be the date. Rental expense, $200, this would be the amount, was used or incurred and not paid. So this is what happened. All right. And this was reversed on the 1st of January. So you could say something like that. Another type of transaction in the rent expense account would be if you are told to describe or interpret an entry on the 30th of June. So this $6,000. So what happens in this $6,000? You would say that on 30th of June, so 30th of June would be the date, the business made a $6,000 being the amount, check payment. You must say check payment because I need to know how the business made this payment. And what did they pay it for? They actually made it made a payment for rent expense. So telling me that they made a payment for rent expense is actually telling me what happened. Now, in a rent expense account, you also may see an entry on 31st of December, prepaid rent expense. So for this $300 over here, all right, the other account affected will be prepaid rent expense, and you might see that. So how can I describe this? I would say on 31st December, which is the year end, the business paid a rental expense. All right, now that is telling me what happened. Rental expense of how much? $300. Now this $300 was paid, and that is the amount that you're telling me. All right, and it was paid in advance. This rental expense will be utilized next year. It will be used next year. All right, so that is how I would interpret the prepaid rental expense on 31st of December. Now, for an expense account, there will always be a cash at bank account, a payment account, or and finally, right, there will also be an income summary account. So let's take a look at this income summary account and how we are going to interpret this. All right, so how did I get this income summary in the first place? I took $600. All right, that is the payment. That's the payment during the year. I paid $6,000. Then I minus away 200. This 200 refers to this rental expense payable. Actually, this rental expense, right, was incurred for last year's financials. All right, the rent was actually for last year, just that you have not paid it yet. Since it's for last year, you should deduct it because it was actually last year's rent expense, right? And then I need to deduct away my $300 as well. This $300 over here. Why do I deduct that $300? It's because it's a prepaid rent expense. I'm going to use it next year. Since I'm going to use it next year, I have not used it this year, and therefore I deduct it away. So how would I describe this income summary? I would say on 31st December, that is my year end. The business incurred $5,500. This is the amount as a rental expense. So that is how I would describe this transaction this year. And that's it. That's for rent expense. All right. So just to remind everybody again that the skills are similar. Tell me what happened, who is involved, if any names are available, how much, how it was paid, and there you have it. You will be able to interpret most ledger entries. All right. Now let's go on and try to do some rent income ledger entry. All right. So now we're going to try to do some rental revenue or rental income. So this is an example of a rent income or rental revenue. Now, of course, it can be anything. It can be service fee income, commission revenue, basically anything. All right. Just need to substitute the name of the income. Okay, so in this situation, we start off first with the $1,200. Okay, with the $1,200 rent income receivable, what is happening on 1st of January. Now, again, just as a reminder to you, this $1,200 on the 1st of January, first day of the year, is actually a reversal of last year's rent income reversal. So I would say something like this. On 1st of January 2020, which is the date, a rent income amounting to 1,200, that is the amount, earned but not received last year. So earned but not received last year is describing what is happening here with the rent income receivable. All right, it was earned but not received last year. All right, and this amount was reversed because on the 1st of January, it's a reversal. It's a reversal of all the income receivable that I recorded last year. Now, the cash at bank is quite straightforward, so I will go directly into 31st of December, rent income received in advance. So how would I describe or interpret this $300 on 31st of December? I would say something like that. On 31st of December, 2020, which is the year end and the date, unearned rent income. All right, unearned rent income. Unearned rent income is basically trying to describe this income received in advance. When you receive an income in advance, you have taken the money but not done the work. So you describe it, you say on 31st of December, unearned rent income, and that will tell anybody listening to it that this is an income received in advance. How much was it? It was $300. All right, and it was received in advance. Now, at year end, as usual, you will need to transfer the rent income that you earned to the income summary. So how do I do that? Firstly, of course, you probably have to calculate it, right? So how did I calculate this 4,500? Basically, it was rent income receivable in plus, excuse me, it should be a minus sign. There should be a minus sign in front here. All right, so a deduction minus 1,200 of rent income receivable. Why? Because I have this income was from last year's income, not this year's income. All right, plus $6,000 which I received this year, and minus 300. Why minus $300? Because I received this income in advance. I have not earned it yet. And that would give me 4,500. How do I describe it? I would simply say rent income earned amounted to 4,500. So there you have it. You have assets, or rather you have income and expense interpretation. Now we will go on and just do a quick revision on how to interpret drawings and capital. All right, so now during the year, there are also instances where your owners make drawings, right? They take out the business assets for their personal use, and that is drawings. Now, how do I interpret a drawings ledger? It will look something like this. All right, and if the question asks you to interpret this, on 31st of March, describe what has happened. So on 31st of March, there are two items. There is this inventory and there is also this cash at bank. So you have to describe both what has happened here. Now you can see that drawings has increased. All right, drawings has increased by 1,500 and 2,000. So I would say something like this. On 31st of March, the owner withdrew. Now in such a situation, it's important to say that your owner, to say who. So owner is the who. All right, your owner withdrew $1,500 of inventory and $2,000 of business from the business bank. For personal use is important as well. For personal use tells us that this is for drawings. All right, so you would have to describe, use this term for personal use. All right, what about another transaction? Now, at the end of the year, if at the end of the year, what happens is that the entire drawings account gets transferred to capital, and it is something which you might need to interpret as well. So in such a situation, you will see that drawings went down. All right, and then what is the other account affected? The other account affected is capital. All right, and this is a ledger for drawings minus capital minus. And when you are doing this, drawings minus capital minus, what you are basically doing is that you are transferring it to capital, which is something that you have to do every time, every end of the year for drawings. All right, so how can I describe this 3,500? Now, since drawing has went down and you know that it's transferred to the capital account, we would say something like this, very straightforward. On 31st of December, year end, this always happens on year end, drawings, $3,500 was transferred to the capital account. All right, and with this, we have interpreted our drawings ledger. Now, I just want to focus and show you how this $3,500 that has been transferred to the capital account, how this looks like in the capital account. So your capital account would look something like this. Can you spot the drawings? Here it is. All right, so in my previous slide, I have recorded drawings, credit, 3,500. Right, drawings, credit, 3,500 went to the capital account. And in my capital account, because of double entry recording, I will record capital debit, 3,500. Came from where? Came from the drawings account. All right, so double entry recording, one debit must have one credit. And why does drawings reduce capital? Now, drawings reduce capital because the owner is taking out business assets for personal use. All right, and therefore the capital account or a capital amount, which is the owner's contribution to the business, is dropping. So how would I describe this transaction? I would say on 31st of December, drawings $3,500 was transferred to the capital account. And this happens at year end. All right, I hope you're still following me at this point in time. Now, what other types of transactions can happen in a capital account? All right, so other kinds of transactions are if something like this on 30th of April, again, if you see two accounts, then you should describe both the accounts under the same date. All right, so you would say on 30th of April, the owner contributed an additional capital amounting to $200. And this additional capital was banked into the business bank account. Why is it important when I say business bank account? Because it's cash at bank. I need to describe this transaction as much as possible. The owner also contributed a $10,000 personal motor vehicle to the business. Why is it important that it's a personal motor vehicle? So that the reader knows that this is a capital account that is affected. All right, so let's see, do I have all my husbands and wives? So if I mention, right, if I mention owner contributed additional capital, bank into business bank account, personal motor vehicle, and all these, what I've highlighted here, right, you're actually talking about the what happened. All right, so what? Now, you also have to mention who, right? Remember, you have to name and shame. All right, so for who, right, it is this owner. All right, owner is the only who in this question. Now, apart from that, you also have to mention how much. If you talked about $2,000 and $10,000, that is the how much involved. And finally, the last one was how was it banked into the bank account? Was it paid in cash in hand, cash at bank? What was it? So by saying that it was banked into a business bank account, that is highlighting the how. How was it transacted? All right, so this is the capital account. And to be honest, if you are able to do this, right, you can actually do most of the rest of the accounts, which I think you may be familiar with. All right, so we are done with capital. And if we are done with we are done with income, expense, drawings, and capital. The last two, assets and liabilities, are actually something that you have done many times already. So you can start to test yourself by looking at my ledger accounts and writing it out. Okay. Oh, finally, not yet done. One last thing, which is income summary. So what happens here with this income summary? Now, this income summary, I would just like to highlight that it is in the capital account and it is actually in the minus column. So your capital account has actually went down. And when your capital account has went down, you are making a loss. All right, so how do we describe this? We can say something like this. On 31st of December, 31st of December being the date, the business losses was transferred to the capital account. And that's telling me what has happened. But it's not enough to just tell me like that. You need to also say the amount. The amount is 15,000. So the business losses, $15,000 was transferred to the capital account. All right. So I'm going to repeat what I said just now. You have done income, expenses, drawings, and capital. The next two that you will cover, or I will cover, is assets and liabilities. You could try by writing down, pausing the video and writing out the answers to compare with my answers if you just want to test yourself. So let's start with assets first. So this is a very straightforward asset account. It's a cash at bank account. And oftentimes you are asked to describe the balance brought down on different dates, right? So again, who, what, who is involved, what happened, how much, and how was it transacted? Let's remember that. All right. So balance brought down on 1st of January would be something like this. On 1st of Jan 2020, that is the date. The business had a cash at bank balance. So this cash at bank balance is telling me what happened. What are you describing? And the amount is $6,800. That's the amount. All right, so this is still fairly straightforward. Now, what about this February the 7th? So at this point in time, if you feel like you want to pause yourself or pause me and then write down your answer, please go ahead. All right, otherwise I will just continue. Okay, so please pause me if you want to try to write out the answer first. So on 7th of February, what is happening here? The cash at bank account, all right, the cash at bank account here is showing that it has increased because of trade receivable Tom Cole. So I would write something like this. All right. On 7th of February, that is the when it happened. The business received a check from trade receivable, right? And that is telling me how much, what happened? Sorry, what happened? Now, what happened? Receive some check from Tom Cole, but you also need to mention the amount, $200, and check how it was paid. So putting all the W and H's together, on 7th of February, the business received a $200 check from trade receivable Tom Cole. Let's take a look at June the 14th and see what happened here. On June the 14th, we see that there was a credit. Under the credit column, the minus column, cash at bank reduced by $1,000 because of insurance. But you cannot say like that, right? So we can say something like this. On 14th of June, that is the when the business paid insurance. When you say business paid insurance, you're actually describing what happened using a $1,000 amount check. How was it paid? Okay. And let's do September 28th. So please go ahead and pause me and try to write out the answer if you want to. So what has happened here again? On you can see that this $7,500 is inside the credit or minus column. So you know cash at bank went down. The other account affected was trade payable Jerry. So what has happened here? On 28th, on 28th of September 2020, that is when the business paid trade payable. That is what happened. Jerry, who using a $7,500 check, and that is your amount and how it was paid. Okay, so see your husbands and wife, when, what happened, who, amount, and how it was paid. Now it is also very possible to have a credit it is also very possible to have a credit balance in a cash at bank account. So what does a credit balance in a cash at bank account tell us? Okay, it tells us that the business had a bank overdraft, and this bank overdraft is $1,500. Now, how do I know it's a bank overdraft? Because of the credit balance. All right, a credit balance tell me that this amount, this cash at bank amount, is a liability. All right, and therefore bank overdraft. Another asset ledger that I thought I might just want to go through is motor vehicles. Actually, need not always be motor vehicles. It could be office equipment, right? It could be property, any NCA. It could be fixtures and fittings. It could be premises, any NCA at all. All right. And if you had a NCA ledger, in this case, it's motor vehicle, and it looks something like this, how would you describe it? You can take 10 seconds to pause me and write down your answers and see whether you got it right. All right. So in this case, so your 10 seconds are up, I think. You pause yourself, okay? So in this case, your motor vehicle has increased by $20,000 on June 30th. The other account affected is trade payable car times. So how would you describe it? You would say on 30th of June, that's when the business purchased a new motor vehicle. What happened? $20,000. All right. New motor vehicle costing $20,000 from car times via, it's not via check, it's actually on credit. All right, it's on credit. Okay, why is it on credit and not on check? Because trade payables, right? Trade payables should be on credit. Haven't paid yet. Okay, so this is a motor vehicle ledger. What about OSPS? What if you have trade payables and bank loans? How do you describe or interpret that? Okay, so one example, trade payables, Mickey. All right, and this trade payables, Mickey has got two items again. It's got a $1,200 under the credit column. Wrong. Let me go and change this and come back again. I'm back. All right, so I've corrected my mistake and so now I'm fine. All right, so in this case, we're taking a look at March 31st. And on March 31st, there are a few things that you need to do. So they want you to describe this transaction where trade payables, Mickey, has reduced by $1,200 cash at bank and $1,000 discount received. So both of them are actually a pair. So what's happened here? You could pause the video and try it out. And then after that, you can go through the exam, go through my answers with me. All right. So if you have tried it out already, you could check to see whether yours is the same as mine. So firstly, you mentioned the date, right? The date is on 31st of March, 2020. All right, 31st of March, 2020. The business paid trade payables. Tell me what happened. Who is the trade payables? Mickey is the trade payables. $1,200. $1,200 is how much? Via a check. Via a check is how was it paid? All right. Now, in addition to that, right, the story doesn't just end there. You know, you see this $100 here. So Mickey gave the business a $100 cash discount, or you can say discount received. It is part of the story. Okay. Now, is it important? Do I need to convert this $100 into percentage? No, you can just directly say it's $100. It's fine. You do not need to calculate the discount percentage. Okay. Now, apart from that, if we look at this, what has happened? Okay, so this is a bank loan. All right. Okay, this is a bank loan, BBS Bank. And you can, let's take a look at the very first one. What are we supposed to interpret? This 31st of May 2019. What has happened here? Now, you see that the business has borrowed, on this date, the business borrowed a bank loan because it's under the plus column. All right, it's under the plus column, and borrow a bank loan of $25,000. And the other account is cash at bank account, right? Now you do have to say that it's from BBS Bank because that is the who. Okay, so have to say that it's from BBS Bank because that is the who. And you will have to also mention how much is it? $25,000. Now, if you take a look at the other account is the cash at bank account. And so you must mention that the amount was deposited inside the business bank account. Why? Because that is how it was paid. All right, you must talk about how it was paid. Now, something else happening here on the 5th of, on the 31st of March, 2020, all right, $5,000 in the minus column for the BBS Bank loan. So what has happened here? So on 31st of March, 2020, the business repaid the bank loan. And so that is what happened. We paid the bank loan from BBS Bank, that's who, amounting to how much? $5,000. And this payment was made from the cash at bank account. That is how it was paid. All right. So what you have done is that you have gone through a quick revision on interpreting asset, liability, income, expense, and owner's equity. All right. So what you can do is, if you want this set of notes, you can download it via tinyurl.com/int-ledgers. All right. All the best. Bye-bye.